Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Who dares awaken me from my slumber? Ernie Davieau, the Squatch Whisperer. This must mean once again it is time for you and I to hunt the Dogman. Absolutely delicious. I really am still very parched, but I guess it is time for Ernie and myself to once again take a walk into the darkness.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf, and everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. This is the home and the stomping ground of the Midnight Society. Once again, we sit down by the late night fire and burn the timber in an attempt to figure out the mysteries that are unfolding in our national forest. Ernie Davieau, aka the Squash Whisperer, is sitting down in the darkness with us to figure out the madness. How you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm doing pretty darn good tonight, Kenny. I guess you're doing pretty darn good yourself. You know, it's Halloween Eve tonight, isn't it?
That it is, my friend, and I'm glad you're doing well. But it's like Spawn says, where I'm from, every day is Halloween, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've noticed that for you. Absolutely. You know,
That's one of my favorite quotes too. And honestly, yeah, the spooky season, rest in peace, my mom, but she is the one I can definitely attribute all this to. She was huge into it, definitely got me into thinking things like vampires and werewolves. And my mom was more of thinking witches were cool, which obviously is funny because I researched missing people and the Dogman phenomenon, but I think vampires are super cool. Well, she thought, witches were cool. So during Halloween, and even pretty much all at points in time of the year, she had cool stuff on like that. So I'm a big fan of things like the monsters, anything,
right?
Halloween based, dude. The Monster Mash is cool stuff, man. So
Yeah, exactly. The one-hit wonder. Yeah,
it's so awesome. I mean, a lot of people don't realize too, there's a small town in South Carolina that actually changed their name to a Halloween-based theme, and they only use
yes,
it, yes, for the month of October. But what is so cool is for most of us, we only get a half a day maybe to really dig out into the gnarly aspects of Halloween. But in this small, cool little town, every night is Halloween, man, for a whole month. So come on now, that's dope.
yeah. That's right next to the riverfront in Savannah. And Savannah, Georgia does it for a whole week. And the buildings that abut the river right in there, that's where the pirates used to come right in off the ocean there and park right there. And the buildings still look like that to this day. But the hauntings that go on in there, incredible. We lived right down near there. You go in the Garden of Good and Evils down there. You go up onto the top where the actual riverfront is up above those buildings, and that's where when the Confederate forces were retreating, and their men were dying from whatever gangrene or whatever, they actually buried him in the road. And to this day, when they do road work, they have to have an archaeologist with them. That place is haunted as haunted can be.
Yikes. It sounds about right. I mean,
Yeah,
that
oh
place
yeah.
is super gnarly. And speaking of that, I have never had a chance to go down to Salem, Massachusetts. I mean, I grew
Eh,
up down a lot in the Boston area. I never just went down to it, but recently, Jody Cook, yeah, one of my best friends and the founder of the North American Dogman Project, he was on vacation with his wife and actually down in Salem, Massachusetts. So, being up in Maine, it was about a little more than an hour and a half drive down
yeah.
there. But yeah, so my uncle and I chugged down and got to hang out with him for a few hours. And that place, same thing, man. It's pretty much always Halloween down there, which is pretty cool. So,
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think there's a little bit more there, hype there than there is in Savannah because they do it only for a week right there. I mean, it's like the Mardi Gras, going to the Mardi Gras. And I mean, there's just strange stuff that have happened. And I mean, really strange. Like, when they do the haunted tours in the horse-drawn carriages,
yes.
well, they've had 3 of those tour guides on Halloween doing the tour who were stomped by horses.
Oh, dang, that's brutal stuff,
Okay,
man.
oh yeah, oh, all kinds of weird stuff down there. So that's like, yeah, I didn't want to go in any buildings. You know what I'm saying?
No,
No.
straight up, man. So,
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna make you be like, wow, what the heck first, and then make you potentially laugh. So,
Okay.
before we dive into what we're doing tonight, which all ties into this, there's actually a really creepy road in Maine where this younger, apparently attractive woman obviously is hitchhiking, and you pick her up. She doesn't say anything, and you end up continuing to drive, and then she just disappears. So,
Mm,
Maine and New England have a ton of
yes.
historical aspects like that for sure. And now on a funny aspect, I mean, I don't think my ex thought it was funny, man. I've had plenty of exes, so she doesn't even pay attention to anything I do. So she's not even gonna hear this confession, but it's hilarious, dude. So there was a haunted hayride that I knew some of the people at, and yeah, they're not really supposed to totally touch you, but they get as close as possible to kind of scare you.
Right.
Well, I knew
Right.
all them and been like, look, man, I'm bringing my girlfriend on this and I want you to spook hardcore. So they did, man. Like a couple of them picked her up out of the hayride thing, dude,
Oh
and
wow.
start like carrying her off into the like forest. And I let it all unfold. And afterwards, when I told her it was just part of the thing, she ended up believing it, but was just like, wow, you set me up like that? And I was like, no, it's just kind of, random people get picked out like that. But yeah, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah. See how easy it is?
So yeah, now the whole spooky season, man, is definitely
Yeah.
something that doesn't just, in my opinion, fall into the season. It's like a lifestyle, man. If you're into that type of stuff, no matter what time of year it
Mm.
is, man, you just like to do things like that. Like when I was younger, putting on werewolf masks and banging on my grandparents' windows when they looked out, they saw just things
Lovely.
like
Lovely. Yeah. Your grandfather must have been loving that.
That's
Yeah.
probably why I got $1 for Christmas last
Yeah. Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. Good thing he's not a Korean War vet or something. He might have. He, he,
Hey
he might have
man,
ate a 60 right
it's
there.
not my fault when you're watching things with your dad like Teen Wolf and such. I mean,
Yeah. Right.
what do you expect, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's the one that corrupted you. This is what you get.
Exactly. So, but tonight, man, you have some really interesting information that I know a little bit about, and I actually sent to you to blow my mind and some others because I know that you dove into it more than I did because I just kind of brushed the layers, and I would like you to potentially dive into your thoughts on that and some of the stuff that you looked into, man.
Yeah. Well, this is a story about a true story about a gentleman by the name of Randy in I believe it was Maine, the Church Street haunting. And of course, he had grown up in the area there, and his father was into real estate, and it turned into that his father was going to renovate a bunch of these places there, and he thought that it'd be a good idea to get Randy to go into some of these places. He could actually live there and start fixing them up, for money, because Randy was working, I think, at a grocery store at the time. So it was better than working at a grocery store because people, the general public, can be crazy, as we all know that we can be. Okay, but this story is intriguing because it deals in the paranormal, which everybody should be suspecting by now, but it also goes into another thing that we find in the communities, whether it be Dogman or Bigfoot. But I'm going to use the Bigfoot one here because the people are like, some are on one side of the fence and some are the other side on the paranormal aspect here. And I found correlations in this gentleman's story, Randy's story here. What had happened is he had finally started working on the basement, and him and his father were digging, and they had found some bones. Now, generally, when you find some bones, you want to kind of try to identify them. Is it a chicken bone, or somebody buried their dog down there, or what? Well, they started suspecting heavily that it was human bones. So they contact the town, a town doctor, and he comes out and he's looking at the bones and everything. And sure enough, and they don't just have one; they have a couple of bones in there, and they're definitely human bones. So they got to take care of that. But Randy starts thinking, about weird things, the paranormal and stuff. So he happens to be in a bookstore, and he finds a book in there. And of course, everybody can suspect what book this was. This was a book on spells, on witchcraft, and conjuring demons. And the first page that he opened it up to while he was in the store was how to conjure 4 demons and have them do to help you out in what you need, what to go in your life, like find buried treasure or whatever it was. Okay. Well, one night, Randy decided he was going to try that. Because what the heck, he could use the money. So he's sitting in the house out there in the main, basically the woods, because there's a lot of woods up there anyways. And he's got the windows kind of open, and he's doing what it tells him to do, to sit in the dark. And he's got to put his whole thought process into doing this, and put his heart into doing the conjuring and everything, which is not a good thing, okay? Because there are more horrific stories than this that are true about conjuring that are just terrifying. But when Randy finished, is a big strong wind came right through the window, and blew some things over inside the house. And he thought that was kind of strange that something like that would happen, since there was no wind in the forecast or anything else. So Randy kind of chased that off a little bit, like, hey, nothing happened. It's subtle. It was very subtle. And that's one of the things that I found interesting, because I'm very familiar with the story, several stories anyways, that deal with this, that I've told a gentleman in the past that he, and I can't mention these people's names, that he felt that this Sasquatch were around his house. But the crazy thing is even though he would go inside and the doors were closed, he was saying that he was having things materialize, manifest in the house. Okay. Things actually like popping out of the air. And to me, that's demonic. That's weird. That's crazy stuff. Okay. That you shouldn't mess with. I don't know if the forest people can do things like this, but if they can, and it seems like maybe they can, okay, then it makes me wonder about what's really going on out there in the woods. Well, Randy decided to have his sister and his mother come to the house. So they come to the house, and there was one other guy involved. I think his name was Mike, a friend of his, and he had to have him come to the house too. But we'll get into that in a second. Anyways, his mother and sister, his mother called him because they were really tight. And she said, the reason why I'm calling you is because I sense something's wrong. I just want to come and visit you. And she arrives there with the daughter, and she instantly keys in on the fact there's something strange about this house. Something's going on. It doesn't seem right, you know. So they get in there, and nightfall comes around, and next thing you know, Randy gets woken up by this organ music playing really, really loud. Okay, and obviously it woke up his mom. So his mom comes into his bedroom and asks him, what the hell you doing? Turn down your music, And he goes, it's not mine. So they proceed to look around and everything. And the daughter wakes up and they're all looking around and everything. And they don't find nobody left a radio there. There's nothing like that going on. He doesn't even have a radio. So that was really strange for them. Okay. Now, that's what prompted uh, Randy to call Mike, get Mike out there. Well, Mike got scared so bad because he was just like an amateur. Don't fool with it, folks. If you got something going on, like a demonic possession going on, just watch the movie The Exorcist. You'll find out why you shouldn't be messing with this stuff. So, Randy's buddy Mike, he did the South Side Shuffle. He's out of there. Okay, he's Michael Jackson and out the back door, running away. He's not staying around. Okay, so that continues for a little while, and I think that perhaps Kenny can pick up the rest of the story if he'd like on that.
That's all great stuff right there, man. And I believe, too, correct me if I'm wrong, there was somebody with the last name Irving that had something to do with this church. And I don't know if he was like one of the founders or whatever, but he was definitely into some, like you said, occult stuff and was questionable at best as to where his allegiance was. And he was one of those people that was supposedly conjuring all these strange beings and such. And what's really interesting is, again, I dive into like the Dogman and missing people and
Right.
existing animals and prehistoric animals and the cynocephaly. I don't really deal with a paranormal base too much. I do find it intriguing. I have specialists on my team that do deal with that, but I'm speaking about myself. That's not really what I feel educated on the topic about, and I don't really have a lot of, I guess, quality information in regards of that, but I do have some stuff right here, and I know that the nasty stash, the dirty stash, we'll call him the White Devil, it doesn't matter. We all should know who I'm
Yep.
referring to in World War II. Well, his next in line, and I've touched on this numerous times, Heinrich Himmler was actually the one that we should be blaming for pretty much everything, okay? More or less, he was actually the puppeteer, and the dirty stash was more or less the puppet, as ironic as that is. He was pretty much on board with everything that Heinrich Himmler had to say, more or less. And Heinrich Himmler was like a nerd. He would have been into this day and age pretty much a ton of reading and all the things that someone that is nerd based would be doing on computers and crunching numbers. But he happened to take a huge interest into the occult. So
Huge.
yes, there are very many books that are quote unquote cursed, and you and I have spoke about it before, but I'm gonna blow some people's mind, and I think yours as well. Just recently in the Czech Republic, they found a Nazi bunker, and in this bunker there was 13,000 occult books. Okay, so let's keep in mind the Czech just found this, okay? And there are also definitely other bunkers still that we have not found yet, because just recently as well, underneath a questionable person involved in the SS, which I'm assuming all those people were questionable, but this person was really questionable in some of his experimentation. Well, underneath his dwelling and this area that was a more or less scientific facility, they found dismembered body parts of all different ages of people, female, male, children, etc. So they're pretty sure again that they were, cutting off people's limbs and trying all these messed up experimentations. But bottom line is these individuals are all over every area in the world that quote unquote would have had occult or paranormal activity. The Nazis would have been there. And if you don't believe me, I do encourage everyone out there to look it up because they were at Huska Castle, which is a strange castle that I covered recently with William White from our science team in the middle of nowhere in the Czech Republic, that is built basically over what people said was the pit of hell, where all these entities, whether it was werewolf looking things or shadow people or winged things, were coming out. And this castle is built inwards, meaning it's trying to keep something inside, not defending itself. Well, guess who was there at one point in time? Oh, of course, Heinrich Himmler and all these other areas, man. Guess who's there? They are. So, bottom line is, I don't know, man, about, like I said, paranormal stuff. I find it very interesting. I do have specialists on my team, like Dennis Carroll, and he is really great with the occult and biblical history and such. So he has informed me about a ton of things. And him and I have pretty much come to the same conclusion that whether or not some of these books were legit or not, if you have your hands on 13,000 plus occult books, you're going to find something, man.
That's right. That's exactly right. World War II vet that actually worked with the French underground, and he swore up and down that he was on the in the involved in the raid on one of the castles. I don't even remember what castle it was, and he told me what he's seen, and that's pretty much what he explained is like demonic things,
Mm-hmm.
like vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And them guys definitely were involved in all of that. They were actually in search of the Holy Grail, anything that had to do with the paranormal,
They're on
any
it.
anything. Yep. And that's what they did. And ironically, we can't get into all of this because then we're going to get into politics or anything, which we shouldn't do.
Right?
Okay. But but we'll leave it up to the people who are listening. You know, you can have a Paul Harvey moment a little while ago, and in a moment the rest of the story when you find it online. Okay, light a
Right?
candle and go online. All
And what's
right.
so messed up again, before I add some more to this, is, well, you have some very old stories that have some clarity to them and have some cookie trails. And Dennis Carroll was actually telling us about one of them and how you had just mentioned it with, supposedly vampires and such like that. So before I get into this, well, Castle Hauschka, they were seeing things ranging from black-eyed entities, black-eyed children. They were seeing winged, demonic-looking things, Jersey Devil much. They were seeing shadow figures, winged entities. They were
Mm-hmm.
seeing quote-unquote werewolves and vampires and all these things coming out of this occult area where it looked to be they were manifested or some sort. But here's what's really messed up is during World War II, apparently, yeah, like you had said, the he's had somehow managed to make some sort of vampiric type entity, and they tested it on their own people. And of course, I mean, who wouldn't, right? Or duh, oh, geez, morons.
Yeah. Right.
But right, they sent in their SS, their highestly trained people at this point in time, and apparently this whole platoon was smoked by these things. Okay, so let's keep in mind, though, I mean, whether people want to admit it or not, I mean, this dude was a horrible person, but Nasty Stash was a genius when it came to putting together plots to defend land, military assets. I mean, dude, it took like what, more than half of the world to stop a country that was the size of not even Texas. Okay, so
Yeah. Well.
now they basically, the SS more or less would have been like our Navy SEALs, man, and like Army Rangers. So it's not like he just sent in, some
Right.
chumpy soldiers, is what I'm trying to get. I mean, these people
Right.
would have had decked out better weapons than we did too. I mean, look at our tanks, bro.
Way
Our
better.
our
Way better.
tanks were like little marshmallows compared to theirs. I mean, we came up with genius ideas like putting rocks and logs in the field so their Tiger tanks would get stuck on them, and you could either stick them on the bottom or blow them up. But dude, they had super battleships. More or less, like I said, this guy was a demonic monster, but he was a military genius. So what I'm trying to get at is the soldiers he sent in there, he armed these people to a T, apparently, and they still got
Right.
smoked by these quote unquote vampiric entities or something. And it's just really interesting, like you had mentioned about that gentlemen that told that to you, I mean, they were definitely doing some
Hmm.
effed up stuff right there. So I think this ties into a ton of what maybe might be occurring this day and age with people seeing things is honestly, I think the stash are, I can't throw out a number, but dude, they got to be at least 80% responsible for that stuff, man.
Well, you're looking at one of the things that a lot of people don't know historically is that dirty stash was actually using a fortune teller to
Hmm.
do a lot of things, and we actually managed to substitute our own fortune teller because we knew what he really, really strongly believed in. So they were feeding him disinformation there.
Hmm.
And as far as that supernatural stuff goes, right there, I mean, you can go all the way back and check in the Bible, and it's called In the Days of Noah.
Hmm.
Okay, when the veil will be lifted. Now they were working on, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong on a we'll call it a crab, the glocking something or another. It looked like a giant acorn
Hmm.
that they could possibly fly through time or whatever. Okay, they had a lot of knowledge. I mean, if you really look at every single battle we've ever fought, even during the Civil War, is we have miraculously, like, look at the Battle of the Bulge. I mean, we totally the weather was in our favor. Otherwise, they would have wiped us out.
Hmm.
Totally in our favor until the last moment, and then the skies cleared, and they were able to drop supplies in and everything else. Every single battle that's ever happened that the United States should not have won, should not have won. Okay, but somehow we did. Okay, so we had something on our side. Let's just call it all supernatural right in there. You know, that thing with the one on Church Street that we were just talking about with the bodies and everything, conjuring. There was one in Connecticut, well documented at a funeral home, that this guy was actually using uh, um, mythology, like mystics. I don't know what you call it, numerology, and
Yeah.
everything. And this guy was conjuring up spirits in the funeral home, putting the bodies in the walls. This is bizarre stuff, but we tell people, Kenny and I tell people, just have a heads up. You know, you got a spare tire in your car for a reason, just in case. So just in case, we're giving you a heads up. You know that watch out what you do
To add to
because
that too, most intelligent people would put a tire that matches their car as the spare tire and not roll with a donut either. But
yeah, most people would. They'd look at the donut and say, or some, yeah, people with intelligence would. Some people look at the donut and they go, I'm never going to need this. It's only taking up room, and throw it away.
or
So they
that's
have
even
more
worse.
room in their
No,
little car.
everyone I ever respected or ever was always told to me, or every girl I ever dated, man, is you make sure that the extra tire you have in your car is not the donut, it's the tire that matches your car.
Yeah, if you got to get out of Dodge, if you got to drive 100 miles on the highway, yeah, you're going to want something that's not, you don't want to have to Fred Flintstone at home, you know?
Exactly, my dude. And no, I really, like I said, I think it all ties into what we're referring to, and there's a huge difference. Like I said, the Cynocephaly, the warriors and such, there is never once a reference from Herodotus or Ctesias or Alexander the Great of them coming out of portals or such. They had to walk down from
Right,
the mountains. Okay, if they were paranormal, why would they walk miles down from the mountain to
right,
come trade with you?
right.
If they were paranormal, how were they unalived on the battlefield, or how did they fight
But,
beside you? How did they pick up your
right,
weapon that you
right.
dropped if they're paranormal? Okay.
But what,
So the werewolves, though, now is the occult stuff, which is the difference, which would be the
mm,
manifestations and such. And I still, honestly, man, I'm still a 45, 55. I'm not sold on this stuff still fully, bro. I do believe,
yeah,
like I said, in the Cynocephaly and the Dogman. But when it comes to werewolves and vampires and things, man, okay. I don't know, dude. I'm a very scientific based person. I find that stuff intriguing, but there is a very large gap in evidence when it comes to, supporting things like that. And
yeah,
people can get upset at the end of the day, but if someone wants to tell me a zombie exists, then show me a zombie exists, man. I mean, don't just tell me, hey,
exactly.
zombies exist. Like, where's the clarity on that? If those things are happening, I mean, the things we just spoke about. So, sure, someone didn't directly show us a conjuring, but they showed us 13,000 occult books. You see what I'm saying? They showed
Exactly.
us burial sites where people are missing body parts. They showed us historical aspects supporting that these dudes were in messed up situations doing messed up things. So it's not like I need every evidence in the whole aspect. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's got to be something that ties the shoe together, man. Okay. It can't just be
Precisely.
everything else. Like everything we just spoke of, bro, there are things to back that up, okay? So that's why that's intriguing, and that's why there is actually probably some really good quality evidence to that, because as stated, whether or
Correct.
not you and I or anybody else believes in occult or paranormal things, when you got 13,000 books on it, dude, and some of those books are banned in certain countries, banned by the Vatican, banned by certain
Right.
religions, and they go back really old in time, man. Yeah, there might be some messed up stuff going on in there, dude.
Yeah, there's got to be some stuff going on there. They can't all be the same book, but it could be by the same author. Maybe maybe who was collecting them liked the author. But on that thing, like we're talking about the paranormal here, and I want to just say that, I found something in the cryptic field, particularly with I call them the forest people. I call them a lot of things different times, but having abnormal strength, abnormal, like super, like it's just unreal. You follow me on that?
Mm-hmm.
It's paranormal, okay? And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I found something back in my hometown, close to my hometown where I grew up. There was a gentleman that lived on a farm that I won't get into his whole story that was supposedly possessed by the devil. Okay, there's a story out there about it. And what made people believe that he was possessed by the devil were two things. Okay, one, that he was able to get from point A to point B in like lickety split, no time at all. He would just be there. Okay. Nobody knew how he would just be in the next county over, like 10 minutes after they had just seen him, when it was like 100 miles away. And the other thing was he had super normal, paranormal strength. He was able to pick up things that a human being, and people, they documented this, that a human being could not possibly pick up. There is no way. Even though we have an account from in Hawaii of a man that became their king, and part of the ritual to become the king was to move a stone. Okay, I don't remember his name. It's been a long, long time, and that stone still exists to this day. And this stone had, I'm just going to tell you, it weighed in the thousands of pounds. Like, I'm going to just say like 2,000 pounds. All right. And he picked it up, and that's how he became king. And you can look that up. That's in there too. That's paranormal to me, So that tells me that there is something there, you know. And after what I've seen, then it's a possibility. I just hope I don't ever see a dog man, but I would rather see a dog man than see maybe a werewolf or a vampire. I mean, that
Yeah,
wouldn't be cool, you know, unless I'm
100%
I'm
right
ready
there, dude.
for it. Yeah, 100%. But then again, it's like a ghost. A ghost ain't really going to bother you. Okay. Now, them other ones that we mentioned, there might be a situation there,
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you people are going to sit down with a candle in front of a mirror tonight on, that's what I wanted to say too. A lot of people don't know this. Okay. Now we know that the Catholic Church excommunicates people, right? Well, a lot of people don't understand how that's actually performed. Okay. And it's weird because actually, this is something that the church partakes in All Hallows Eve. Why would they do that? Okay. So on All Hallows Eve, they got a whole list of people that need to be excommunicated from the church. All right. That means you're going to be, your soul is going to be bandished to neither here nor there. I forget what they call the place, limbo. You're going to be in limbo, okay? And what they do is they wear their black hooded robes on All Hallows Eve as they do their chanting and everything, and they break candles when they say your name and condemn your soul to hell or limbo. How about that one, dude? lay down and rest tonight with.
Yeah, purgatory, man. That's some messed up stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so
yeah.
before we do tie this up, I got a few quick things before I let you go. Alexander
Okay.
Crowley, for example, is
Uh-huh.
arguably one of the largest occult participants of all time. But this ties into a
Right.
lot of the things like I try to tell people to pay attention to is that he was borderline insane, borderline genius, but also was a drug user and had psychological issues. So, was he truly talking to quote unquote demons, or was this dude hallucinating and having breaks in his psyche? Because at this point in
Right.
time, look it up, what the doctors prescribed to him as a medicine for a skin condition would now be considered a very lethal drug that puts a lot of people on the street.
Yeah, and not only that is what were the last words that he uttered.
Exactly, man. So,
Yeah.
on a very final note, though, man, I think you'll like this dude because you're a big Sasquatch guy, and obviously everyone
Yeah.
that pays attention to Dogman at one point in time had to have, paid attention to the Sasquatch. And there is a really cool breakdown that I'll try to find it to you and send it to you, where some scientists all pretty much sat down and more or less have come to this conclusion that there are variants and there's differences, meaning between, like, say, the quote unquote Yeti or some of the sightings up in the mountains compared to some of the forest sightings and such, and that some of the variants of what people, same thing with Dogman, how it could be a hyena that they're seeing or a baboon. Well, same thing with this. So people are saying the word Sasquatch or Bigfoot, but what these scientists seem to think is some are seeing basically, yeah, remnants of apes that did exist up here at points in time, which would also solidify some of the difference in behaviors. But then some are Neanderthals that they believe have been pushed back to the mountains because Neanderthals were proven to be carnivorous towards humans. And it would again explain, remember how I told you when they showed images to babies that made them cry of predators, correct? And also of things that didn't, like furry bunnies, there was either smiles or no reactions. Well, why are humans, why are we terrified of anything that looks close to us? You know why? Because at a point in time, those Neanderthals were a very big problem for us, man. And that's why we basically tried to eradicate them, which, of course, that's something that we would do to anything that is threatening us, and that they have been pushed back now into mountainous areas, and that they are cannibalistic and carnivorous, and they're not technically fully humans, so they wouldn't really be dealing with Kuru, that disease, but also Kuru can stay in limbo in an individual for up to 40 years before you're hit with it. So if you're living out in the wild, though, you're probably potentially not even living that long. So they wouldn't even deal with any of those issues. And I found that super interesting as I was watching it the other night and thought of you and just wanted to share that with you real quick because I thought that made a ton of sense, meaning that sure, people are using the broad term of Dogman to describe a lot of things in the broad term of Bigfoot and Sasquatch, but it would make a lot of sense that you do have some maybe remnants of large apes that were related to the Gigantopithecus and also missing hominoids that never truly went extinct, man, that are part of our gene pool in the past. And a Neanderthal would look pretty dang scary, man, and covered all in fur and such and carrying weapons and such. And I just thought that was interesting, man.
I do find that interesting, because um, we are working on, some of us are working on right now. We're beyond the hypothesis and into the theory on behavior aspects of them right now.
Hmm.
As in people that are familiar with my encounter, if you're not, is being approached by one and actually having to use rudimentary sign language, very rudimentary sign language with me. Okay. Yeah, there and me being told by somebody, a Native American chief, that they actually have always known me, watched out for me, and they protect me. And I always wondered why. Could this be what Kenny is stating right here? Could this be the reason why? Um, it just might be. I find it a very interesting thing because by using any type of language or anything, it separates them from
Hmm.
the the, the knuckle draggers. we'll
Right?
call them.
And
Okay.
it would make the differences, like you said, with the activities and the behaviors, because hey, knocking
Hmm.
on wood is something
Hmm.
that, sure, a primitive man or Neanderthal or a spin-off of humans could easily do, but that's also ape behavior too. So I honestly don't see why it's not both or multiple facets, just like in the Dogman, because every report of
Very much.
yeah, of a Dogman doesn't mean we're not speaking about werewolves. Okay, could it be a werewolf? And someone says Dogman, sure. We've already gone over this before. Could it be a hyena? Could it be a bear? Sure. Dogman, Bearzilla,
Hmm.
And again, I just think with the different variants, because if you look around of the types of behaviors, like you said with Sasquatch and how they range in
Yeah.
sizes in different areas, and some are more
Right.
docile and some are more, feared for taking tribal members and women and
Yeah.
children. There's definitely a difference, man. And I just thought maybe you would find that interesting, and anyone out there should look that
I
up
do.
because these scientists are
I do.
extremely intellectual. So,
Well, yeah, a lot of the scientists are, the ones that want to be down to earth and be able to be talking on, we'll say, my level, okay, so that I can understand everything that's going on. And the ones that don't have that DR in front of their name or anything, that are still doing the research, is they're finding some really good stuff, because we definitely don't want a body unless we are forced to do something like that.
hmm
And with that, it's been asked to me many times. I'm just going to share it with everybody. Has been asked to me, or I've seen it many times on the forums. What would you do if one of them stepped out in front of you, or you're walking on a trail out in the woods? What are you going to do? Now, let me just put it to you this way here. You better decipher really quick. Is that one of the ones that wants to eat you, or is that like one of the ones that I had met? Okay.
yes,
So with
exactly.
that being said, you're going to have to use intelligence on that. And I'm going to make a plug here, Kenny, because it falls right into this. I have an Etsy store. It's called New England Encounters, all one word, New England Encounters.etsy.com. And on there are the t-shirts and the actual artwork on some of the sign language that it actually used with me. I would have to say that's a peaceful one. You might want to know that in case one steps out in front of you. Okay, you might want to say, hey, hold on a second here, or we're buddies, or whatever the case may be. This is a unique item. It took this lady to draw this up for me 7 months to do that. So that was a really good subject. Thank you, Kenny, for doing that. So I was able to throw a little plug in there. You know.
No, perfect, man. Figured that, like I said, would add a little bit of more interest in your
Yeah.
aspect and fit into
Yeah.
that. So thanks again
Yeah.
for popping in tonight, man, and hanging out with
Yeah.
us for sure,
Yeah.
because
It was
October is
great.
always a great month. So I look forward to linking
Uh
up
huh.
with you again soon, man, and figuring out what the heck is occurring, dude. So
Yeah. Absolutely. So you have a good night tonight, and you know, turn the lights down low for tomorrow for all them little candy grabbers that are out there, because candy is expensive, folks.
ooh, you legends, you. I adore every single one of you. If you could please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Feed the algorithm the truth and turn on those alerts. You will hear from me very soon.